What if the most powerful upgrade to your health wasn't something you eat, but something you stop eating? I'm Dr. Leo Vitas. Welcome to XENOVITAS channel, where we talk about nutrition, longevity, anti-aging, and biohacking. Let me ask you a question that may completely change the way you think about food and health. What if the most powerful health tool you have isn't a pill, isn't a supplement, and isn't a new superfood, but simply the moment you choose to eat? For decades, we've been taught that eating frequently is healthy. Breakfast is essential. Snacks are necessary. Eating every few hours is considered normal. But what if this constant eating is actually preventing your body from doing what it was designed to do? Today, we're exploring intermittent fasting, not as a trend and not as a restrictive diet, but as a biological mechanism that reshapes metabolism, accelerates fat loss, activates cellular repair, and supports longevity. This is not about starvation, it's about timing. And once you understand how it works, your relationship with food will never be the same. What is intermittent fasting? Intermittent fasting is not a diet, and it is not about restricting calories in the traditional sense. It is an eating pattern that organizes when food is consumed rather than obsessing over what food is eaten. At its core, intermittent fasting alternates between defined periods of eating and defined periods of fasting, during which no calories are consumed. This structured absence of food triggers a series of metabolic and hormonal adaptations that do not occur when food intake is constant. In the modern world, most people spend the majority of their day in a fed state. From breakfast to late-night snacks, the body is continuously digesting, absorbing, and storing nutrients. This constant feeding keeps insulin levels elevated and locks the metabolism into storage mode. From an evolutionary perspective, this pattern is abnormal. For most of human history, food availability was unpredictable. Periods of eating were naturally followed by periods of fasting. Human physiology evolved under those conditions, developing sophisticated mechanisms to function optimally during food scarcity. Intermittent fasting simply reintroduces that natural biological rhythm, allowing the body to switch between feeding and repair states as it was designed to do. Humans evolved under conditions where food was not constantly available. 3 meals a day, snacks, and late-night eating are biologically new. Intermittent fasting simply restores that natural rhythm. The metabolic switch. When you stop eating, your body does not immediately begin burning fat. First, it uses glucose stored in the liver in the form of glycogen. As glycogen stores become depleted over several hours, insulin levels drop significantly. This drop in insulin is critical. Insulin is a storage hormone, and as long as insulin remains elevated, fat burning is suppressed. Once insulin falls below a certain threshold, fat cells begin releasing fatty acids into the bloodstream. These fatty acids are transported to the liver, where they are converted into ketone bodies. Ketones are an alternative fuel source that can be used efficiently by the brain, muscles, and other organs. This transition from glucose-based metabolism to fat and ketone-based metabolism is known as the metabolic switch. It represents a shift from energy storage to energy utilization. The ability to switch smoothly between fuel sources is called metabolic flexibility. Poor metabolic flexibility is associated with fatigue, insulin resistance, obesity, and metabolic disease. Intermittent fasting trains the body to regain this lost flexibility. Autophagy, cellular cleanup. One of the most profound effects of intermittent fasting occurs at the cellular level through a process called autophagy. Autophagy is the body's internal quality control system. During this process, cells identify damaged proteins, dysfunctional organelles, and metabolic waste, then break them down and recycle their components to build new, functional structures. This process is so essential to cellular health that in 2016, Dr. Yoshinori Ohsumi was awarded the Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine for uncovering the molecular mechanisms that regulate autophagy. When food is constantly available, autophagy remains suppressed. The body prioritizes digestion, absorption, and storage, leaving little opportunity for cellular maintenance. Fasting creates the metabolic conditions that allow autophagy to increase. As nutrient-sensing pathways are downregulated, cells shift their focus from growth to repair. This process plays a key role in slowing biological aging, reducing inflammation, improving mitochondrial function, and protecting against neurodegenerative and metabolic diseases. In simple terms, fasting allows your cells to clean themselves before damage accumulates. Benefits of intermittent fasting. Fat loss is not controlled by calories alone. It is regulated primarily by hormones, and insulin plays the central role. When insulin levels are chronically elevated due to frequent eating and high carbohydrate intake, fat remains locked inside fat cells. Even if calorie intake is reduced, fat loss becomes difficult when insulin stays high. Intermittent fasting lowers insulin naturally and predictably. At the same time, levels of growth hormone increase significantly during fasting periods. Growth hormone helps preserve lean muscle mass while promoting fat breakdown. Fasting also influences other hormones involved in hunger and satiety, such as ghrelin and leptin. Over time, hunger signals become more stable, cravings decrease, and appetite regulation improves. This hormonal environment explains why many people experience fat loss with intermittent fasting without constant hunger or obsessive calorie counting. The body is no longer fighting itself. Hormones begin working in alignment with metabolic goals. This is not magic. It is human physiology working exactly as it was designed to. Different fasting windows. Intermittent fasting can be practiced in several ways, and different fasting windows produce different physiological effects. Shorter fasting windows, such as 14 or 16 hours, are often sufficient to improve insulin sensitivity and initiate mild fat burning. These approaches are generally well tolerated and easy to integrate into daily life. Longer fasting windows increase the duration of low insulin levels, extending the period of fat oxidation and ketone production. With experience, the body adapts by becoming more efficient at using stored energy. Occasional longer fasts, such as 24 hours performed once or twice per week, may further stimulate autophagy and metabolic adaptation, but they require careful attention to recovery and nutrition. There is no universal fasting protocol. The optimal approach depends on lifestyle, stress levels, physical activity, sleep quality, and metabolic health. Consistency and sustainability matter far more than fasting duration. How to start safely. Starting intermittent fasting safely requires patience and gradual adaptation. A simple first step is extending the overnight fast by delaying breakfast and avoiding late-night eating. This alone can produce meaningful metabolic benefits without placing stress on the body. Hydration becomes especially important during fasting. Water supports circulation, kidney function, and appetite regulation. Black coffee and unsweetened tea are generally acceptable and may enhance fat oxidation. Electrolyte balance should not be ignored, particularly sodium, potassium, and magnesium, as fasting reduces insulin-mediated sodium retention. During eating windows, nutrient density is critical. Adequate protein intake helps preserve muscle mass, while whole foods stabilize blood sugar and reduce inflammation. Fasting does not replace good nutrition. It amplifies its effects. Common mistakes. One of the most common mistakes with intermittent fasting is compensatory overeating during eating windows. Consuming large amounts of processed food negates many of the metabolic benefits of fasting. Another frequent error is progressing too quickly. Jumping into long fasting periods without adaptation can increase stress hormones, disrupt sleep, and impair performance. Ignoring hydration and electrolytes often leads to headaches, fatigue, and dizziness, which are incorrectly blamed on fasting itself rather than poor preparation. Intermittent fasting should enhance energy, mental clarity, and metabolic control. If it consistently produces exhaustion or distress, the approach needs adjustment. The goal is adaptation, not deprivation. Who should be careful? Although intermittent fasting is safe for many individuals, it is not appropriate for everyone. Pregnant and breastfeeding individuals have increased nutritional demands and should not restrict feeding windows. Those with a history of eating disorders may find fasting psychologically destabilizing. People with diabetes or other metabolic conditions who use medication must approach fasting carefully, as changes in insulin sensitivity can affect blood glucose regulation. Fasting should always be adapted to individual biology, health status, and life circumstances. Optimization is personal, not universal. Fasting and longevity. Intermittent fasting influences multiple biological pathways associated with longevity and disease resistance. By reducing insulin signaling, lowering chronic inflammation, improving mitochondrial efficiency, and enhancing cellular repair mechanisms, fasting supports long-term metabolic resilience. When combined with strength training, regular movement, adequate sleep, and nutrient-dense nutrition, intermittent fasting becomes part of a comprehensive longevity strategy. It is not a shortcut to immortality, but it is a powerful way to align modern lifestyle with ancient biology. Fasting does not simply add years to life, it improves the quality of those years. In other words, it does not extend life on its own, it improves how well you live it. Conclusion: what's the next? Intermittent fasting isn't about eating less, it's about eating smarter. Your body already knows how to heal, burn fat, and regenerate. Fasting simply gives it the time and space to do so. If you found this video valuable, subscribe to XENOVITAS, give it a like, and share it with someone. Tell us in the comments, have you tried intermittent fasting, or are you thinking about starting? In the next video, we'll explore the probiotic protocol and why optimizing your gut bacteria may be one of the most powerful tools for longevity and disease prevention. See you in the next video.